Hey guys, in previous video we created Azure virtual network using interpolation method, and for that we created this particular resource group, and then we are using interpolation method and we are just referencing that this particular resource group over here. So in this case we created the resource group and virtual network, and that's it. We haven't created any subnet in our previous video. So in this video we are going to create the subnets, and we will create multiple subnets, and for that we are going to use variable method. So we'll define the variable of resource group and vnet, and then we will call those variable using interpolation method in our resource block to create the subnets. Okay, so what we have done so far over here is, let me close this file. I just created one more folder called subnets, and inside that I have created subnets.tf file. Okay, now let me switch back to the Azure portal, and here you can see that we have created this resource group, and under that we have this virtual network. And if I go to this subnet field, you can see that there is no subnet configure so far. Okay, so we are going to create this subnet. Now let me switch back to the Azure documentation page, and here I will search for subnet. Under this network field I am getting this option Azure RM subnet, so let me click on this. So this is the example of your template to how to create subnet. So in this field it's creating a resource group and virtual network, so we don't need this two field because we have already created resource group and vnet. We only require this subnet field, and it's also showing this delegation and service delegation, but I don't think those fields are mandatory. Let me quickly validate it. Okay, so delegation is optional, so we can create subnet without providing this field, and service delegation is required, but it is only required when you are specifying this delegation block. So if you're not using this delegation block, then this particular field you can exclude it. Okay, so let me copy only this subnet block, and I will go back to my VS Code. I will use this block over here, and let me close this block. So this is my Azure RM subnet resource type. It is showing example, so rather than I will use subnet 1. Okay, and in the naming field I will use prod subnet 10.0.1. okay, that is fine. I will copy this, and I'm going to create one more subnet with, I'm giving this particular label subnet to label. You can give any name. Okay, it doesn't matter. You just need to make sure that whatever the name that you are giving in a label, you have to use the same name if you are using interpolation. And here I'm using prod we are using in previous subnet. Okay, so here I'm going to use dev, just an example. Okay, so this is fine, but here we also require two values, that is resource group name and virtual network name. So what I'm gonna do for this is, we'll define variable, and I will call this rg name. You can call that variable with any name, that doesn't matter. And variable will have this type key or type field, and this particular type is string because it's just a name. And I'm also going to give default value for this variable, and that default value is nothing but our resource group name. So this is the default value, resource group 1. Okay, and what we need, we need virtual network name. So I'm giving one more variable called vnet name. Okay, and here I'm using this type field. This is a string type, and the default value is value of my virtual network name. So let me copy this, and I will paste that over here, virtual network name. So we have this two value and we are going to use this in this resource block. Okay, so we are using variable over here, and in this resource group name we need to provide this particular value, okay, or this particular expression. So I'm going to remove this, and if I want to call variable using interpolation method, I will use var for variable, then dot, and then this particular label or the name of the variable, which is resource group name. Okay, and then it will pick up this default value from there because we have provided default value, so we don't need to provide anything else over here. And the similar for virtual network name, we need var dot and the variable name of virtual network. So it will pick up this particular variable and then it will use this default value, which is nothing but virtual network 1 in this particular field. Okay, we'll use the same one. So let me copy this for subnet 2, because we are going to create the second subnet in the same virtual network. So what we are doing here is we are creating multiple subnets. So here I'm just for the demo or just for this video, I'm just creating 2 subnets, but in case you want to create multiple subnets, then this is the best option. Just define the resource group and virtual network name, the particular value which you are going to repeat in your code, just use as a variable, and then you can use those variable using interpolation method. So you don't need to call that particular value or you don't need to repeat that particular value in your multiple resource block. So now there is a difference between variable and locals. Here I'm just giving this example how to use variable with interpolation, so that's why I use this subnetting example over here. So in case you want to use a particular standard values which value are not going to change, then better use locals over here. Variable is most of the time is used when you need a user input or your value is going to change multiple times. So in that case, variable is the best option to use. Okay, but both are same. Variables and locals both are same. Variable is only used for user inputs, and locals you can actually fix those values. We will see how to use locals in our next future videos, but this is the example how you can write the variables and then how you can use variable values in your interpolation method of resource block. Okay, so I guess our code is ready. The only thing that I need to change is this address prefixes. So 10010, that is fine. On here I'm going to choose 10020. Okay, and what is missing over here is our Terraform and feature block. So let me go back to resource group and then resource group TF, and I will copy this Terraform and provider block from here. Then I will go back to subnet.tf and I will paste that over here. Okay, and guys, all the codes that I'm mentioning over here or I'm explaining, I'm going to upload all these codes and this Terraform file in the GitHub repository, and that repository link is mentioned in below description, so you can copy from there and do the testing. So let me go ahead and save this file. So we have this Terraform block, we have provider block, then we have defined the variables and then resources. Okay, so let me save this file, and I am in subnet field folder. Then I will use Terraform in it. Okay, now I will use Terraform plan. And here you can see that it's going to add 2 resources, and it's going to add this Azure RM subnet 1 is going to create that, and this is our subnet 2. Okay, so let me go ahead and type Terraform apply auto approve. So Terraform apply command is completed successfully, and you can see this, it is actually added to resources. So let me go back to our portal and click on the subnet, and here you can see dev and prod subnet is created successfully. So this is how you can declare the variables, and then how you can use variable using interpolation method in your resource block. So there is one more way you can actually separate this variable. So in case if you have more variables in your Terraform file, then it is better to separate it and create a different file for a variable. Okay, so in this case, suppose I'm in subnets folder, and here I'm going to create one more file, and I will call that file as subnet variables.tf. again, the naming standard for the file name doesn't matter. Okay, as long as it is .tf file, when you run the Terraform command, Terraform will compile all that file at once, and it will see that file as a one file. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I will copy this variables, or I will just cut this variable from this main file, and I will use that variable in a separate file altogether. Okay, so if you have more variable, 10 variable, 15 variable that you are using, then it is very difficult to maintain that in a single file. So always use separate file for variable, save this file, and make sure that separate variable file and your main.tf file are present in a same folder or in a same directory. Okay, so Terraform, when you run the Terraform, it will pick up that variable files which is in the same directory. It will read that particular variable block. So Terraform will know that, okay, this is the variable block, and then it will use that label name and the default value in this interpolation method. So that Terraform will take care for you. Okay, so this is how you can use Terraform variables, how you can declare the variables, and how you can use those variables using interpolation method.